How do you know when you're prepared?
We're not, I mean, the film was itself.
I think at an extreme, and we're not nearly as prepared as we need to be. For example, most of us are not implementing the 4 simple measures that could reduce our vulnerability by 80%, sort of the cyber equivalent of brushing your teeth, flossing, and visiting the dentist. We're not doing them. We need to start doing them, and we need to start doing them now.
And what are those measures?
You want to know what's on your network and whitelist your software. You want to limit administrative positions, and you want to execute real-time patching of your systems and your applications. And we do those now for no or low cost.
Scott, is this so? Are we lacking in some of the basic low-cost, no-cost steps?
In the case of the electric power sector, I disagree a little bit. We are the only sector, and I say this all the time, repeated, we're the only sector with mandatory cybersecurity standards. But to the former Deputy Secretary's point, that's not in and of itself a 100% solution. I think that at best is an 80–90% solution. But it's the basic blocking and tackling, the good network hygiene things that you should be doing. If you think of the electric grid, and in this case, they make the point in the film that there are 3 interconnections and all 3 went down, I think it's important to note that the standards in that case make sure that the least developed of the utilities and then the most developed, those that are maybe resource rich, are all operating this one big machine with a certain level of baseline level of security. And that is not a cyber attack.
But I think I hear you say that it's not, in fact, all within the purview of the utilities. Some of this has to come from elsewhere.
Sure, and you referenced the Electricity Subsector Coordinating Council, which is a really robust partnership between the electric utility industry and our federal partners. It's something that we started off actually with Deputy Secretary Lute, and I've learned an awful lot from General Hayden as well, who talks about it in terms of, if you think of standards, y'all hear me? There we go. If you think of standards as that 90% solution, the next 9.99% of the solution, for all intents and purposes, is that close coordination. The north-south between the government and the private sector and the government. The government has intelligence gathering capability. The government has the ability, has a standing army, and then east-west across the sectors. If you think of the electric grid, in this case it was a cyber attack that successfully took down the entire electric grid by what we assume, just by some of the inferences, insinuations rather, were a full frontal attack on the control systems of the grid. Well, there's a lot of ways to disrupt power. Deprive us of water, deprive us of fuel, deprive us of telecom, and you're going to have the same impact. So that north-south between those who have the intelligence and who have the standing army, and then the utilities who have the operating expertise, and then east-west across the industry, which is operating one big machine with thousands of owners, users, and operators, and across the critical sectors upon which we're interdependent. I think then you get closer to that 100% solution in preparedness against a dynamic threat. Cybersecurity, today's threats, today's threat actors, today's vulnerabilities may not be tomorrow's. And so standards, which we are very proud of, which give us that baseline level of security, are fantastic, but they're not nimble enough to deal with the dynamic nature of the threat that we're dealing with. That's where that coordination between government and industry